Asking for mercy, what the lawyers for this father and son are asking for instead of prison time. We'll have the details on that and a manhunt still underway in Belgium at this hour. The link police believe they have found between Tuesday's attacks and the ones that happened in Paris last year. 6 o'clock and good morning. I'm Julia Dunn. Jack Lampson is off today. Let's get to your weather forecast. I know a lot of people, including myself, woke up, you know, there was, you could tell that it had rained, Craig, but it had all iced over on my windshield. Yeah, freezing rain, a little bit of freezing drizzle across the Saratoga Springs area not too long ago. Right now catching a break. In fact, the snow, sleet, freezing rain mix that we had now pretty much catching a little bit of a lull in the activity. We're watching what's developing out west because this may try and ripple along as well and affect areas north of the capital region, so certainly something to watch. But I do expect this to come to an end really by noon at the very latest for all of us. Areas south, you haven't really seen anything, just clouds. Outside right now, well, it's mostly cloudy. Temperatures are in the 30s, even some 20s as we work our way further north. 33 latest check in Albany. Should wind up in the lower 50s today, kind of cloudy. Some breaks of sunshine. Julia? Craig, thanks. We're going to take a look at traffic now, bringing you out to exit 3 I-90. Eastbound traffic is on the left-hand side, so it's the headlights coming at you. We are accident-free for this hour. If you're about to hit the road, that's your CBS 6 Eye on traffic. Happening now, Pittsfield police are still investigating and interviewing potential witnesses after two girls say a man tried to lure them into his van while they were walking to school yesterday. Police say that these were two separate incidents. So you have the first one that happened down here on North Street, and not too far away, the second one on Linden Street in Pittsfield. Both the female students were walking to the Reed Middle School, and this was right before 7 o'clock in the morning. Our Carrie Beal is joining us outside of that school this morning. So Carrie, what do the parents have to say about all this?
Well, parents are worried, and here's why. Behind me here is Reed Middle School, and over here across the street, these are all residential houses. All this area surrounding me is residential houses, meaning students have the option to walk. One of those students who was approached yesterday was on this very road, North Street, and one of the parents of the kids we talked to says they don't really have that many options because if they live within a half mile of the school doesn't provide transportation. Here's what we know so far of what happened yesterday. Around 6:55, they received a report a man in a blue van attempted to lure one female student into his vehicle. Police then located that van yesterday afternoon and spoke with the vehicle's owner, but did not make an arrest. Then police say a second student reported a similar incident happened yesterday morning near the location of the first incident. Both cases remain under investigation. Right now, the police are continuing to interview potential witnesses and victims. We talked with a parent of one of the students who was approached yesterday. He says he plans to keep his daughter at home until she is provided transportation by the school.
So at that point, it's like one of us have to quit our jobs to be able to get our daughter back and forth to school or pay $400 for her to ride a bus to school, which we can't afford.
Now, the district did say to parents and students at the school of the incident, they did release some information about that. We also reached out to the superintendent yesterday to get some response on what happened. We called multiple times and they didn't return our phone calls. Police are asking anyone with more information to give them a call. I'm Carrie Beal reporting live in Pittsfield for CBS 6 News.
Carrie, thank you. Happening this morning in Brussels, while the security perimeter shrinks around the metro station bombed on Tuesday, a manhunt is still underway for a third suspect in the deadly attacks. Investigators in Belgium now believe that there's a link between Tuesday's assault and the November Paris attacks. Police are still looking for this mystery man pictured here in the white jacket, but have made progress identifying the other two. Investigators believe the terror cells are bomb maker Najim Sharawi, shown on the left-hand side there, and Ibrahim El-Bakraoui in the middle. And they say that both of those guys, they blew themselves up at the airport. Ibrahim's younger brother, Khalid, is believed to have detonated the explosives on the subway train. Investigators say they've also found DNA belonging to at least one of the Belgium suspects on a suicide vest used in the Paris attacks. Speaking from Argentina, President Obama once again urged the international community to come together in the terror fight.
Can and we will defeat those who threaten the safety and security not only of our own people, but of people all around the world.
The Associated Press says ISIS has trained at least 400 fighters to carry out waves of deadly attacks in Europe. Later today, European leaders will hold an emergency meeting to discuss its response to the Brussels attacks. Now, because of all of this, security is being stepped up just about everywhere, but one retired U.S. general says maybe this won't even matter because according to him, some current policies are making the United States a prime target for a similar style of terrorist attack.
In America, we almost have a perfect storm here. The threat is growing, particularly as we bring in more and more of these Syrian refugees. The threat is growing, but law enforcement is now not willing and able to do its job in many cases.
The United States is welcoming a very limited amount of asylum seekers, unlike Europe, which is bringing in far more. An expert on the migrant refugee crisis says most of the people behind the recent terror attacks, though, in both the U.S. and in Europe, have been from the area where they committed the act of terror. Happening today in Troy, 2 teens are expected in court after police say they were shooting a BB gun at a school bus full of kids. Raymond Johnson and Dion Kowalczyk arrested earlier this week after police say they were shooting at the bus on Madison Avenue Monday morning. The district says the bus was carrying 12 students and 1 monitor from the Sacred Heart School. Both teens have been behind bars in Rensselaer County, and they are facing several charges. New details this morning in a Troy robbery investigation. Albany police confirming that this man here, Anton Gums, who was arrested last week in connection with the armed robbery of DeMayo's liquor store, is now facing charges in connection with 4 other armed robberies in Albany. On January, February, and earlier this month, 4 robberies were reported at the Sunoco station on Delaware Avenue. Police now say Gums is facing several charges in connection with those Sunoco robberies. The lawyers for former New York Senate leader Dean Skelos and his son Adam are asking a judge for mercy and not to send the 2 to prison. The Skelos lawyers filing papers yesterday, each asking for sentences of probation, citing Dean Skelos' long history of public service and asking for the judge to consider multi-year community service as part of his punishment. Dean Skelos was convicted last year of corruption and extorting money and other benefits for his son. The 2 are to be sentenced April 13th. Key state lawmakers continuing their efforts to legalize daily fantasy sports in New York. Following the recent agreement with the Attorney General earlier this week, the state Senate is backing the regulation of daily fantasy sports, putting that in their recent budget proposal. The chair of the committee with gambling jurisdiction says he predicts the legislature will legalize it and regulate the sites. Governor Cuomo's office says it looks forward to reviewing this proposed legislation. Now, speaking of the state budget, with the deadline now a week away, lawmakers are still debating the governor's proposal to phase in a $15 minimum wage. Right now, several compromises are being discussed, trying to persuade opponents of this bill to switch sides. For example, one idea is to increase the wage at a much slower rate than what the governor wants. Another deal excludes some industries from having to pay the higher wage. But Assemblywoman Pat Fahey from Albany doesn't think that's the answer.
But I don't want to see a 2-tiered system where some businesses would pay one wage and others would pay another. I don't think that works.
Ultimately, Fahey does support the wage hike, saying it allows for more revenue to be spent in local communities from the lower wage workers who do spend their income. Lawmakers have until next Friday to approve the budget. People in Cohoes spending the night digging in for a good cause. This looks good. They were ditching the utensils at Smith's restaurant in downtown Cohoes and using their hands to eat a beefsteak and potatoes dinner. All the proceeds from the event go towards supporting the construction of the Cohoes Veterans Memorial.
Currently, there's nothing past World War II, so the veterans were trying to do this memorial park, and this is kind of a concept from the 1800s that we thought our restaurant really led itself to.
The project will restore the city's 1910 Civil War monument as well as add new landscaping, flags, and a plaza walkway. A groundbreaking ceremony is scheduled for early this summer. The Senate in South Carolina passing a bill concerning refugees in their state. We'll tell you why, if it becomes a law, it would be the first of its kind. And protests in Argentina. Look at this. Why hundreds were marching in the streets and burning American flags.
A little light snow and wintry mix activity sort of calming down right now north of the capital region. Another batch, though, just to our west. I think that will affect parts of the area. I'll let you know who, let you know when that comes to an end. Plus, we're going to look at Easter. We're going to take a look and see if things are going to be a little brighter than they have been over the last couple of days when we come back.
CBS 6 Eye on Traffic brought to you by Team Goey. To see all Carfax service records on over 40 one-owner vehicles, Google Goey.